Okay, so one of the other things I'd like to show you is some of the things you can do with the Motion tab up here. And if we're going to be working with the Motion tab, it really helps to expand the viewer a bit. This is actually a timeline over here, and you can't really see it as such unless you expand. So let's grab this, drag it to be a little bigger. And now you can see that what this is doing is it's basically giving us a representation of what's down here on the timeline, showing that this light gray area highlighted is our 6-second clip. So we can work with that now. What we can do is, got a slightly longer clip. If we double click on here, it'll show it to me. It's basically about 6 seconds of our lovely kitty cat. So let's switch back to the Motion tab. And you can see we've got a playhead here we can drag back and forth. That'll show us what's going on at any given time. What I'm going to do is any place that I have the yellow playhead, if I go to my scale here under basic motion and I click this button, it's going to create a keyframe for me, and that basically is a place where I can control the size of the image. So I'm going to hit the up or the down arrow over here, and that moves me to the end of my clip. I'm going to set another keyframe, and now I can basically drag the line around at any point that I've got a keyframe. So all I'm going to do is just, you can see I've turned from the arrow cursor to the crosshairs. I'm just going to grab that and drag it up. It means it's going to scale it to get much bigger. And you can see when you drag the playhead back, that is indeed what's happening. Of course, if we actually want to see it in action, we're going to have to render, which will take a little. Alright, so now we've got our rendered sequence. Push the space bar here, you can see we are zooming in. What else could we do here? How about we'll play around with opacity a little bit. I'm actually going to make a new copy of this, and with opacity, if I play around with the opacity while it's on this first video track, it's going to fade back and forth to black. But if I drag it up and over here, what we're going to get is it'll show us what's happening underneath on this first video track from video track 2. So I'll render that out before I mess around with it. Okay, so now I'm going to make sure that I have this video track 2 selected. I'm just double clicking on it. There it is in the Motion tab. We've got another option down here, opacity. If I open that up, I can do pretty much the same thing. I'm just going to make sure I've got my playhead where I want it. Looks like it's right about there. So you can see that my new clip starting down here with this light gray. And if I click my up arrow, I'll get my playhead right where I want it at the beginning of the sequence. And I'm going to click my keyframe down here. Do keyframe there. I'm going to click my down arrow. Again, another keyframe. And I'm going to start out with this being really see-through, low opacity, and we'll go to high opacity at the other end. And if we pull this back and forth, we should be able to see that that's what's happening. We'll get this other Nora coming in on top of the first Nora. Okay, so that's done rendering. Let's take a look at what we've got. One helpful thing to resize all our windows back to how they were before, if you hit Control U at any time, it'll just go to the default setting, which is kind of helpful. So let's review this, but I wanted to show you one other way to look at stuff while you're editing, and if you don't want to export all the way out but you'd like to see it full screen, you can go to View and Video Out, and then as long as Canvas Playback is selected, you should have this option for Digital Cinema Desktop Preview. Click that, and it's going to take us into full screen. If you hit the space bar, it'll play. So there's our video. I'm getting a bit of a surrealist cat theme going on here. If I hit escape, it takes me right back to where I was before in Final Cut. And so that's kind of a few other techniques you can use. Just remember, we've gone over modify. You can pull up speed anytime you want. And the keyboard shortcut for that, which is a lot easier actually, is Command J. That'll bring up speed. You can go slower or faster based on the percentages you put here. You can click reverse to make it go backwards. And then all the stuff in the Motion tab, and you just need to remember that you need to have a clip selected. And then you can mess around with stuff in the Motion tab by setting keyframes. So that's about it. See you guys next week.